Hello, and welcome to the Hello You Show, where we talk about big dreams and taking real action. Through transformative stories, a bit of neuroscience, and real conversations, this show is here to help you explore creating your next level life with authenticity and passion. I'm Jessica Rice, a design techie and former engineering leader turned vision evolution coach on a mission to help other women rise up and lead a life of purpose. So get cozy and say hello again to the real you. Hello, and welcome back to the Hello You Show. My name is Jessica Rice, and I am so excited to have a special guest joining a day all the way from Australia. We have Marie Ferguson here with us, who is a feminine embodiment coach and co-founder of Awæcnian Academy. Marie is a master's in education as an advanced breathwork facilitator, where she passionately guides young minds to ignite confidence through authentic expression. Marie also holds a global platform speaker title. She's also a podcaster and an international author, where she creates a safe and supportive and ecology and emotional intelligence, where she empowers youth to overcome obstacles and foster growth and self-realization. Marie is driven by an unwavering commitment to legacy building and invites women to join her in this transformative journey of self-discovery and empowerment. So I am so excited to bring Marie on. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm greatly appreciative.
Oh, thank you, Jessica, for having me. And so excited to dive a little bit deeper and even just get to know you a little bit more on this podcast as well.
Absolutely. So I know that you work with a number of amazing women. You help to facilitate their growth and transformation. And I was just wondering if you could just even share with us a little bit of your journey and how you came into this work.
Yeah, beautiful question. I found myself after 16 years of teaching in education and really giving a lot of my heart and my soul into the work of working with young people and teenagers, creating musicals, productions, being in the dance and drama classroom. And I was giving a lot to the school and the young people in front of me. And being a young mum at the time as well, I found myself giving, and experiencing burnout, occupational burnout, and denying that I was in burnout because it was like, I can keep doing it. And when trying to expand my family, I, was thinking about not only the next part of my journey, but like these parts of society and your own family that going, it's time to have another one. And I found myself, with my beautiful husband, like deciding that we're going to have another baby. And so this decision and what happened after that was something that I was unprepared for. I experienced 3 miscarriages back to back in a 9-month period. And I found myself losing my sense of identity, not listening to my body, um, feeling just so lost in the darkness of it all, and feeling that I must be broken, there's something wrong with me, and not really allowing myself time to grieve or rest, and just forcing myself back into the workforce, back into teaching just to numb the pain or to just keep moving. And in that time frame, I found myself yearning for understanding, yearning for something else. And, in combination with seeking, beautiful support with a psychologist, there was something else that was like, I need women around me. I need women who understand these felt experiences, whether or not they've gone through that same experience or not, coming into circles of sisterhood, of women's circles, of gatherings where I could just share what was on my heart and allow that to just really be a healing place. And so, in that part of my journey as well, it was a lot of discovery and rediscovering of this essence of like who I was as Marie, not just as the teacher or the mother or the wife or the things, the many categories that we feel like we have to be in. And it was this full disintegration of my identity in order to like rise like the phoenix and come into like owning, well, who do I want to be for myself above all? And how do I want to show up for my family? How do I want my daughter to see me? I don't want her to see me in this crumbling mess that is just sick all the time or tired or just forcing things that are not in flow. And that led me to um, a lot of inner work and going back to like really ancient teachings that the women that I was surrounding myself with were tapping into. And I was like, what is that? What is this feminine flow? What is it coming back to our understanding our cycles and energy, as well as the psychology behind our emotional intelligence and blending both worlds? And yeah, coming back into sisterhood, coming back into finding mentors and teachers that were really exceptional at coming back to understanding our feminine flow and our emotions as cyclical emotional beings and embracing that. And that's what led me to then creating my own curriculum, working with women. And then this passion of like, why do our young teenagers not know this information about the power of our cycles and our flow and being able to use that for our energy to relate to people, to understand ourselves. And that's where a lot of the legacy works derived from in empowering and inspiring other women, girls, and even our boys and our men to understand and hold us in our fullness.
Well, number one, it's so beautiful that you are able to give back in such a way where you can, take what it was that you have gone through and then turn it around in a way that's such a gift for other women to explore themselves and this transformation that they can go through. What do you feel was the turning point for you? Was there a certain moment or an awakening that you had that shifted you from kind of going through the process of learning to recognizing that this is really what you want to do with your life and your work?
It's a really beautiful, powerful question. I think for me, it was at a retreat I was at a women's retreat where it was probably about 2 years ago. I had never gone on a retreat or a holiday or anything like that for myself in my life. I pretty much went from school to then university and then teaching and like I the only holidays were like the school holidays, and I'd never allowed myself in all of the transitions to actually come back to myself in stillness and silence and deep reflection. And at this retreat, we did this really powerful breath work that allowed just this depth of pain and trauma, experiential magic to kind of come through the body and to come through the subconscious and through, there's a lot of scientific, evidence behind what happens with oxygen and the carbon dioxide, and also tapping into the subconscious mind that I wasn't aware of at the time, that allowed like this beautiful healing to process at a cellular level. And this moment where I experienced like this physiological um, experience for myself, where I was like, wow, that was really powerful. How do I know this work and how do I help create this for other women? Because that just like time jumped a whole heap of stuff I could have done by myself over many years within like a really short period of time. And our bodies are so, so powerful and they contain so much wisdom if we allow ourselves to listen and to unlock some of that magic and the keys within us to help us really transmute and alchemize any of those traumas or past narratives that seem to hold us back so that we can live our fullest. And it was this women's retreat that really was the catalyst for me to then go on this next path that I'm currently living now.
Mm. I love how you also bring up the fact like the work that you were doing actually lessened the amount of time that it required for you to start to heal and to become whole within yourself. So what a testament to really working with what it is that you do, working with other people and finding connection, just even outside of ourselves. Because I think sometimes we think that we need to go and process some of these types of, issues with that we face in our lives, whatever those might be, by ourselves. And we fail to recognize the power that comes when we can start to be more vulnerable and reach out to other women who, regardless if they understand it fully, can be there as a support system for us. So I know that you work with a lot of women, on exploring their femininity. And I was curious if you could explain a little bit more about your work with the Menarche project that you do.
Yeah, beautiful. And I so agree with you when you are curious to explore and listen to those parts of yourself that are like questioning and guiding you to seek. It's so fascinating to see what opens up for you. And so, with the Menarche project, um, in the work that I was doing in this transformation of understanding my energy, understanding how to, overcome burnout, anxiety, and really come to that sense of clarity within myself. And it was really diving into understanding more about what is this feminine energy and what is this masculine energy, the yin and the yang. We talk about these polarities of light and shadow, and this world is one of duality and polarities. And it's like a lot of the time in my work, I was go, go, go heavily in my masculine energy, in the hustle bustle,
Mhm.
doing for everybody else. And I failed to stop and listen to what my body was telling me, what my surroundings were telling me. And that feminine essence, which has got nothing to do with feminism. It's an energetic understanding of energy, and it's our intuition, it's our creativity, it's this beautiful piece of nurturing. And our men have feminine energy too, and it's how we dance and balance and harmonize those parts of self. And so, an understanding that divine feminine energy and essence that we have to really come back into listening and rest and understanding my menstrual cycle and my flow was really powerful, because in having those miscarriages, it really brought me back to my womb space. And when we think about our womb, it's the portal of where life comes in to creation. It's only woman that can bear, the life of a child to come through in nature as well. And this power of like reclaiming and loving my cycle, because every time I would have my period in that deep healing phase, I would look at it and think, oh no, there's something wrong with me, I'm not pregnant again. And there was a lot of really deep shame and unworthiness narratives within myself on my own body. And I would look at myself and go, I would hate my stomach, I would hate that time of the month. And there was something within me that vowed, if I can't love all of me, how do I expect my husband to love those intimate parts of me if I can't do that? So it was this real self love journey of being able to strip away those narratives. And so, with understanding this about me, I was like in schools with girls, and I would see those levels of confidence. I would see the unworthy narratives at this age group, and those pieces of shame so ingrained at an early age. And I was like, if I can't do this for me, who am I to tell them, oh, you're just going to be confident? You just, stop doubting yourself when I was being a hypocrite. And it was like, okay, how do I shift that within myself so I'm actually being authentic and showing them the way? And it came back to the body and came back to understanding our cycle. So menarche or menarche, when you break down the Latin phonetics of it, means our first rite of passage. So it's the first bleed that we get. And when we as girls transition into womanhood and we get our menstrual cycle, most of modern society really shames that. There are parts of society and families and tribes that really celebrate it, and it's coming more and more into celebration. But I know in my upbringing, it wasn't talked about. I thought there was something wrong with me, and I didn't want to tell my mum about it because we just didn't talk about that kind of stuff. And me as a mum now, I don't want that for my daughter. I don't want that for the young girls that I work with or the boys in the classroom to notice that. And so it was interesting. Just yesterday, I was in a year 4 class, and there was this year 4 boy that said to the support teacher in there, "Why are you so angry? You on your period?" And it was that mentality that just refueled this why I'm doing this work. It's to stop narratives like that that really dishonor us as women, because 50% of the world are women, and this is natural. So to remove the taboos, to remove the narratives and these societal pieces that it's not meant to be spoken about is something that's really passionate. And it's like, let's start at the beginning. If we could really frame this part of our young women in a sense of celebration, in honoring like how powerful they are, that they get to shed and shift anything that doesn't serve them, that their wombs and their cycles are so powerful because they can then learn to harness when to rest, when to be really energized. And that's as a whole part of like the teachings that I teach with the women that I work with, and also the girls' circles that I've started to create in my community. And it's like bringing that sense of empowerment and celebration and honoring of our bodies and our cycles instead of shame, instead of those pieces that we just shun and put away. We shouldn't be ashamed that if we do bleed through our dresses or pants or whatever, that we should feel embarrassed. It should come at a place of like, let me help you, let's celebrate, or let's like, know that that's okay, and not to put shame on other people or embarrass them, because I see it all the time and it breaks my heart. And it's like, we need to come together and really own this part of who we are, because we as women are so emotional, and it's a superpower. And being able to use that and harness that in our cycle and flow can be phenomenal if you listen deeper.
Mm. There's so much to unpack with all of that, but I love what you're saying around all of this in the sense that there is so much shame that I think I recall having when I was growing up in relation to that. And it wasn't so much from my personal life, but just in school and boys. And so I really find it inspiring that you're bringing in, welcoming in men, because I think that's another piece of it, like where they feel almost excluded. And so it becomes this taboo conversation. And I see it now, even when I'm working with corporate clients, is that, as women, we start to change our behavior. We alter who we are as women in the workforce, and we have so much self-doubt, whether we come across overly, I don't want to say feminine, because I don't think feminine is a weak word. I think we come across overly emotional in some cases to other people, and we think that that's not a strength. And then when we come across assertive, then we start to second guess that as well. And so I loved how you said that that is our superpower, what it is that we're capable of doing with our bodies, what it is that we bring to the table, and also knowing ourselves to a greater extent. And what a gift that is when we're experiencing so many different types of emotions and and physical exhaustion that we're going through as well. I mean, that happens too.
Definitely.
It's yeah, it's so with the work that you do with young girls and then even within the schools and with the young boys, are you starting to see a shift with how they're accepting themselves and their bodies and looking at themselves? Because I know self-acceptance, especially for girls, it runs so deep.
Yeah, I think it depends on really the socioeconomic background as well of, people's upbringings. In certain settings, I've been very blessed to be in certain schools that have a really beautiful sense of community. And I experienced girls' education in the last, I suppose, stint of my mainstream teaching career. And in that setting, it was a really small all girls school, but there was this beautiful sense of community. Yes, there was still some bullying and the cattiness that can happen at that age group. But what I noticed was like this real fostering of leadership and sisterhood and, yeah, this beautiful sense of community that was in this particular school that I was in. But in other settings that I've been in where that foundation isn't there, it's really hard. And so, yeah, I feel when mums start to notice and expand themselves and how they want to show up, like parents are the number one teachers. So if you are searching and wanting to, step into the highest potential that you can be as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, as a partner, and you start to notice these narratives within your own family, then you will start seeking people that want to celebrate that more. So, the first girls group I did, bloom circles that I had because they were in bloom. They're like teens and tweens. We had like, 10 to 14-year-olds in this circle. And it was just really, um, tapping into the parents who were wanting their daughters to have some really positive role modeling and some really beautiful spaces where they could step into their confidence and play and, yeah, just notice that there are spaces that are safe to talk about this stuff. And so I think it really depends on the area, on people's awareness. And so I feel like when I go into these settings and we talk about confidence and we talk about these issues, when it's natural and authentic, then I will bring that in. In some settings that I've been in where it's like a really tough area, and that mindset isn't there, a lot of it actually starts with respect and being able to respect people on that human level. And yeah, I think it's really dependent on the area. So there are some spaces where I see it really impacting and shifting, but I still think there's a lot of growth to come in that mindset, in the leadership, choosing to have people come in that will open those minds. But I think a lot of that comes into creating safe spaces for people to pull their guards down so that they can open up and be vulnerable.
Mm. So it sounds like what you're doing is you're kind of scratching the surface to a certain extent or like helping to, what do I want to say, like maybe pull back the curtain so that there's some awareness. And yet you also are dealing with, as we know, a very complicated scenario of acceptance and how do we broach even these topics to a greater extent. And I think that you're spot on with self-acceptance and respect being such a key and integral portion to how we start to look at our lives and how we start to relate ourselves and then to others as well. So I know that you have a few events that are coming up, coming up in the next couple of months, right? So you have Women's Thrive Summit, and then you also have Seeking Sovereign Souls. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about those events with us.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, with thrive. I'm so excited that I met you through that space. And
Mhm.
there are so many amazing women. And I just get inspired by, the magic and the expertise that all of these women have. And it's like being able to tap into their wisdom and get inspired and go, well, how can I harness that for myself? And so, with the summit that's coming up, I'm going to be talking about claiming your crown of wisdom, embracing your divine feminine leadership. And when we claim that crown for ourselves and really step up and own, like, wow, I can create anything in my life. And if I own that power within me, there's so much that can shift around you, from your relationships to your career to your parenting as well, and the bonds that you get to create with the people around you. And that's a part of really owning how magnificent we are. And for me, a lot of that work really came back into understanding our bodies, because this body is the vessel of how we express in this world. So if we can honor that and nourish it and be able to use this amazing human machine that we have to our advantage and listen deeply to the wisdom that's ingrained in our genetics, and notice our surroundings, then there's so much that we can actually manifest. And we just, from the Women Thrive space, we just had Thrive Talks Australia last weekend to just kick off this week of International Women's Day. And you guys are experiencing it now. I had it yesterday in Australia, but every day is a celebration of women's work. And so, from this platform of Women Thrive, I spoke to our founder, Ray, and I was like, you know what? Can we do an event like this in Australia? And then me stepping into the courage of asking and that leadership, we just had this beautiful event last Saturday where we had, 7 speakers, and many of them were current speakers here for Women Thrive and past speakers as well. Some of them flying from another country to be here. And the women in the room that came to this event to be inspired by those talks, by the stories. I had women coming up to me going, wow, I had a really tough week. And this this was just the icing on the cake for me. And that was really powerful to witness. And yeah, it was really amazing to kind of see that part of my leadership come through. And yeah, and so then with the summits that I'm doing as well, it's calling in all the leaders, the game changers, the people that are the paradigm shifters, when we think about this transformative work we're doing and being able to inspire change, mind, body, spirit, and really embodying this in our daily lives. Because, we can have the mindset work, and that's a very important part of what we do. But if we're not living it and we're not embodying it, then it's not going to actually truly make an impact. So when we open our hearts, when we think about the narratives and notice the stories that we want to fade away and actually practice and live it and become devoted in our daily lives, in those micro moments where we have like tough conversations or moments of like emotional outbursts with our family members, and come into that place of calm and noticing your own nervous system and being able to take these techniques we've learned from all of these teachers, masters, facilitators, and actually apply it to our everyday lives. That's magic right there. And that's where the transformation actually becomes your reality and you get to live it. So, Seeking Sovereign Souls is for the leaders that um, are wanting to speak into their magic, into their wisdom and their expertise that is grounded in a lot of foundational material in their own lives, but also in research, in their experiences with others. And then for the audience members coming in that are yearning, that are looking, that are seeking for more, that are seeking for that something or someone that's going to spark and ignite that next thought or that next inspiration or that next step.
Mm.
And so that's where the intention is of that global summit. So we're excited that we've got so many speakers that are still coming through, and we're looking forward to just creating like beautiful change in the world.
Mm. I love how you're talking about too, how women coming together. I think this is a piece that I notice a lot, even with corporate and settings to a certain extent, is that from for some reason we've been taught to compete with one another and rather than coming together. And so when we do, we become powerful. And maybe that was another strategic reason why we weren't coming together for a reason and they were keeping us apart. But when women come together and we can support one another, whether it's through Women's Thrive Summit and how we met, or through the work that you're doing with Seeking Sovereign Souls, I think it just opens up this whole other capacity for us to think and feel and acknowledge what it is that we're facing in our lives. And I think that's what I'm seeing too is a big part of it is that we go through these cycles of denial and shame, and then we want to grow. And so when you were talking about how we embody the mind work that we're doing, now we can bring it in and like you were saying earlier into our cellular level and start to see a shift in how we start to behave and really honor ourselves, which is incredibly beautiful. So what do you feel like is the most inspiring, change that you've witnessed in the work that you've been doing?
Oh, that's a very, very powerful question. What I suppose I've seen in the women that I've worked with, and that just really leveling up and really being able to take those pieces that they've learned about their own bodies, um, and truly learning to like love themselves. And it feels like it's so simple, but as women, and I still have moments where I doubt myself, and I still have moments where it's like, is this really worth it? Am I actually making an impact? And I think that's self love and that honoring, like that piece of really noticing that we are such a gift and a blessing, and owning that in being here on this earth and this planet, that we get to make these changes, whether it's in just our family unit, or if it's, in the workplace or in community work, or if you have a big heart and you want to change the whole world, and you're inviting people in to do that with you, like knowing your worth, that we are worthy. And I think that's the most powerful piece that I have seen in the work that I do and the people that come into my field. And yeah, this piece that it gets to be easier, but you do require the effort and the noticing and the awareness to keep peeling the layers, going back into the heart, keep going back into knowing how freaking awesome we are, and like owning that with such beautiful humbleness, but also just sovereignty of owning that we can create anything we want. We can, live the best lives that we are here to live. And, as creative beings, we can do that. And, the journey along the way is also hard because, I think that's part of being human. The quickest way, I think the saying is the quickest way for anyone to actually learn is through suffering. And unfortunately, being human, that's just how it is. But we don't have to remain in that suffering. It's part of the process to learn to feel the depth and the richness of our emotion. And like the fact that I understand what trauma is, I understand this idea of what grief and loss is at the level of this depth, that I now know the extremes of what joy is and how beautiful all of these emotions are, even the shadow parts. And it's like integrating and like loving that. And if we do that for ourselves, if we can love the shadows and the darkness and integrate it, because the light will then shine so much brighter. Then, if we can do that for ourselves, for our family, then we can do that for humanity. And the darkness and the shadows that we see, if we can continue to make those ripple effects, then there will be impact in the world. Our children are going to have a better future. I've got goosebumps now. And it's like this legacy work, yes, it's for ourselves, but it's also for the generations to come, to inherit the earth, to inherit this beautiful world and each other. And, it all comes back to here first. So
I could feel it when you were saying it, the power was coming out, and I could feel it in my body too when you were saying that. Um, and I love that you are bringing up that key part, which is, we do have that shadow self and we do have the ugly bits, and loving ourselves wholly is the path kind of to healing, is what I'm hearing, and how we can, when we acknowledge that, then we can move through it and teach that to our kids and to others. And we can, lessen maybe even the judgments of others when we lessen the judgment of ourselves.
yeah. Oh, you encapsulated that beautifully. Yes.
Well, I would love to know, for women who are seeking out or considering, how do they get into exploring this part of themselves a little bit more, and maybe they have some even self-doubts around some of that. What would be your message for them?
Hmm. Look, I that self-doubt is very real. And one of the first, I suppose, techniques that mentors taught me was like through mirror work. Every day we look at the mirror and, we put our makeup, we do our hair, and just looking yourself in the eye. Like, I never really stopped to look myself in my beautiful eyes to tell me how awesome I am. Because we look our children in the eyes, and we think, when they're babies, if you have children or you've held a baby, you're like, how magnificent they are. And then something happens along the way. And so if you're seeking something, and here's a beautiful thing just that you can do every day, just look yourself in the eye and tell yourself how beautiful you are. You may not believe it because the ego in the back of the mind may put the self-doubt and may bring some stories forward. Just push it back and just bring some affirmations forward. And, for me, I would tell myself this in that time of transition. I didn't believe it. I had so many amazing people around me tell me how powerful, how strong, how beautiful I was, how courageous I was in the time that I was experiencing that dark night of the soul. So I looked myself in the mirror and I just kept validating and reshaping and rewiring that narrative with the intention that if I can do this for myself, then I can look my daughter in the eyes. I can look my husband in the eyes. I can look any woman in the eyes, and for them to notice and see the reflection of how worthy they are too, that they are enough, then that there is enough, because we are enough.
Mm.
And so something simple, keep doing it to change the narrative. And that belief then becomes faith, then becomes a deeper trust and knowing how amazing we all are. And it just gets to ripple out.
Mm. So powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And I think what a beautiful message to send other women who sometimes we will put other people first before ourselves. And in that way, it isn't selfish when we start to look at ourselves in that way and in that light, and we can see that beauty. And over time, I know I've done it and it takes some time to own it for ourselves, but we can then do it for our families and for our kids, and so that we can be practicing what it is that we're saying to them.
Yeah, totally, totally. And it's hard sometimes. There are days where I'll be like looking at the lines and the bags under my eyes and the stories, and I'll be like, why am I? And I'll just keep being consistent and noticing the disbelief and being able to go, no, there's something more. And then it does shift, and then you feel it. You then feel the difference, and it shifts from here into here. And that's the embodiment of feeling it.
So many good reminders for us as we go through our days and we experience all of the waves of emotions, and to really set us step back and kind of ground ourselves in our own truth and what it is that we bring to the surface. So I know I'll put into the show notes everything related to Women's Thrive Summit and Seeking Sovereign Souls. But I also wanted to ask, what's the best way for people to connect with you if they're looking to know more and learn more about working with you?
Wonderful. Well, I do hang out mainly on Facebook, and I am on Insta as well. So you can find me at Marie Ferguson and Awæcnian Academy. I was just talking to Jessica before that it is a great conversation starter, and you can also find us at Awæcnian Academy on Facebook. But it's spelled in a really interesting way. So it's the old Latin term, so there's a few interesting letters in there that doesn't quite make sense, but life sometimes doesn't quite make sense. But it's the feeling. So awakening is spelled Awaenicin. Awæcnian Academy. And you could also find us on www.awæcnianacademy.com. So that term, which is, if you really pronounce it, Awæcnian, is the old Latin term to mean awaken. So we're in this process of exploring, becoming more aware. There's parts of us coming up online and awakening to new ways of being. And, this is what I love doing with my beautiful co-founder as well. And connecting with amazing people like Jessica and the other women and conscious men and women from around the world. So come and say hello. I love connecting with people. And, you can also find me on Instagram at Marie_Ann_Ferguson.
Well, we'll definitely make sure to pull all of it into the show notes as well so that it's easy to locate. And thank you for explaining that, because that gave me some more context around the Latin meaning around it, and pronunciation as well. So thank you so much for coming on today. I have just greatly enjoyed our conversation, and just for sharing with us that deeper connection to ourselves, and our embodiment of our own, feminine gifts and things that we bring.
Thank you, Jessica. It's been a pleasure.
And I look forward to listening to your talk coming up soon as well.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to stay tuned for new episodes coming out each Tuesday. And until then, keep staying authentic and being you. Thank you for tuning into the Hello You Show. It's been a pleasure to have you with us on this journey today. If you found value in our conversation and want to support the show, please take a moment to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd also deeply appreciate it if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also enables others seeking inspiration and authenticity to discover our community. Until next time, keep embracing your story with purpose.